We're previewing the second round of games in the college football playoffs, starting with Blake and Matt. First game is Miami, Ohio State. Which quarterback do you trust more heading into this matchup, Julian Sand or Carson Beck?
Yeah, well, I'll trust Carson Beck a little bit more if the wind's not blowing 25 miles an hour like it was in College Station, Texas in the first round. He looked pretty pitiful, tough conditions. I won't put it all on that. I mean, he just didn't play well, and Miami's defense got it done. But that's the other question of this too, is which defensive line do I trust more? Because I think that might be what it comes down to. Who can get more pressure on the quarterback? Who can disrupt Carson Beck, or can Miami disrupt Julian Sand? All things told, I probably trust Sand a little bit more, but it's not like he looked great against Indiana. Beck, you just don't know which version of him you're going to get. And overall, I don't think he's shown enough consistency to prove to be trustworthy. But like I said, I do really like that Miami defensive line. So if they can get pressure on Sand, then that's a different story.
Yeah, I think you can't look at this thing in a vacuum, because if we're going strictly on who's quarterback, all things being equal, and the protection is there, I would say Sand. But I think if you look at the pressure and what Miami can do and how they can get to him and how it has affected Sand, especially in the Indiana game, in the Big Ten championship game, he got rattled a little bit. Still played really well, by the way, but definitely he got rattled. And I think if Miami can rattle him, then it's different. Who am I going to trust at that point? Yeah, that's a tough situation, because they both can get after the quarterback. They both can rattle the quarterback. This is not going to be one of those 35-31 games. This is going to be a low-scoring, grinded-out game, a lot like the Big Ten championship game. I honestly, I know I'm kind of like punting here, but I don't know that I trust either one of them, as long they just need to not turn the ball over.
Well, going back to that Miami game, if their D-line does step up and pressure Sand, do we think that secondary can stop these explosive weapons that Ohio State has offensively?
I think it helps a lot if they can get the pressure. I mean, if Sand's got all day to work back there, there's not many DBs in the country that can stop these wide receivers. I mean, yeah, we saw Indiana do it pretty well, but I wouldn't want to have to hang my hat on that of dropping back and having to cover these wide receivers for several seconds. I mean, really, for Miami to have a chance defensively, it all hinges on that defensive front getting pressure on the quarterback, which I think they can do. I mean, I think this is a top 10 defensive line in the country, and frankly, that might be underselling it.
Yeah, I mean, the game has really turned to affect the quarterback, protect the quarterback, and Miami is pretty much there right now. They can protect and they can affect. That makes them a dangerous team in this tournament, and they run the ball really well. I would say if you're looking at this team, the team that protects the quarterback the most is going to get the most out of the passing game, obviously. But also, if you can't get that pass rush, and Miami's DBs will have problems. There's no doubt about that, because there were open receivers in that Texas A&M game. Just Marcel Reed couldn't get it to him.
Looking at the next game, we have Oregon and Texas Tech. Speaking of another dominant D-line, that Texas Tech D-line looks really good. Can the Oregon O-line stop them from getting to Dante Moore, or is this pretty much a wrap if they start getting to him early?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think people that watched the first half of that Oregon James Madison game, I thought oh, Oregon, they could put Texas Tech in trouble in a hurry. And it's like, well, Texas Tech is not like James Madison at all. I mean, that's just the reality of it. James Madison their roster was not built by a billionaire oil tycoon, right? I mean, Texas Tech's defense, that defensive line, is built like an SEC unit. And so never mind that the jersey patch says the Big 12. I mean, to me, when I've watched Texas Tech's defensive front all season, I thought this is a unit that belongs in the SEC, or this is a unit that could wreak havoc in the Big Ten. So, I mean, I think it's a prove-it game a little bit for each team, but particularly for Texas Tech. Even though they look the part, they passed the eye test, still, I think people are going to say, well, this is a Big 12 team. How much of their success was based on the schedule? I don't think it was. I think this is truly one of the four best teams in college football, but I do think they have to go out and prove it now.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what Dante Moore can do, outside of a play, outside of what they've got called. He's a guy that obviously can break and tank and do things, when he breaks away. That's going to be a big deal. I think he kind of hurt Indiana in the first half in that game. Then Indiana figured it out in the second half and basically physically beat them up. And I think you'll see Texas Tech do that as well. The difference between Texas Tech and Indiana, I think Texas Tech can actually get there with 4 more than Indiana can. Indiana would bring a variety of blitzes to get him too. If Tech can get in with just 4 and drop 7, it's going to be a very, very long game for Oregon.
You brought up Indiana. That's the next game we're looking at. Alabama, Indiana. Does Alabama have enough to take out the number 1 seed? This team impressed in their last matchup, didn't look good in the SEC championship game. So you don't know which Alabama team will show up, but do they have enough to take out the number 1 team?
No. I mean, I know I should probably hedge my bets and come up with some way where they do, but I'm going to say no. I mean, yeah, Alabama looked great and rallying from the early hole they put themselves in against Oklahoma. Credit to Alabama. Also, I think that game probably said something about Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma was the 8th best team in the country. I think they had the resume for it. I'm not arguing that. I mean, they had built a good resume, but if we were just going by eye test and grading these teams, nobody would have had Oklahoma at number 8. So yeah, credit to Alabama for rallying, but it's like you said. What did we see from Alabama the last time they were facing one of the true big boys in college football, Georgia? They got pasted. And I know Alabama is a little bit Jekyll and Hyde. So I mean, you could say like, well, if good Alabama shows up, then maybe, but I don't know. They're so one dimensional. I don't think they're terribly disruptive on defense. And let's also not forget. I mean, they got some help from Oklahoma and staging that comeback. I mean, that whatever that disaster was that happened on the punt, a pick six thrown by Oklahoma there. So again, I'm not trying to take away from what Alabama did. Credit to them for getting it done in the first round, but there's a difference between being a team that can win one playoff game versus a team that can win the whole thing. And I think that's the difference between these two teams. Alabama was a team that could win one. Indiana's a team that could win the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm a little leery of just immediately writing off Alabama just simply because there's a lot of talent on that team, a lot of talent. And I still don't think they've played their best game yet. I think they might have played a couple really good halves, like the first half against Georgia and the second half here against Oklahoma. If they put it all together and played 2 really good halves, they could absolutely win this game. I don't think there's that much separation from Indiana and the rest of the field. I still think Indiana is the favorite, but I don't think there's as much separation as people think. If Alabama puts together its best game, absolutely they can win. But that's a difficult ask for a team to go into that environment in the Rose Bowl. Where, I mean, it's going to be a fun place for Indiana, a fun experience for Indiana. They're going to be so jacked for that game. And Indiana can move the ball up and down the field on just about anybody. And if Alabama even struggles at all on defense, which they kind of did against Oklahoma the first, 20, 25 minutes of that game, you struggle on D for 20 to 25 minutes against Indiana, you're going to be down 31 something. It'll be ugly quickly.
The last game in our second round is a rematch from this year, Week 8, Ole Miss, Georgia. Georgia won with a dominant fourth quarter performance. What does Ole Miss need to do to get their revenge in the second round matchup?
Well, they got a defensive-minded head coach now. Maybe Ole Miss can prove that Lane Kiffin was the baggage on this team and not the engine. I say that slightly tongue-in-cheek, but seriously, I mean that's what they have to do. Like they have to show a pulse defensively, or they have to win the shootout. Like they had a chance last time around with really no real defensive presence to speak of. They just stopped scoring on every possession. So there's your options, right? Like you either have to score on every possession like they were doing for the first 3 quarters of that game, or you have to find a pulse on defense. Which of those is more likely? I think it's going to be difficult, I think, to have as much defensive success as they had against Georgia the first time. I mean, you're giving Kirby Smart, maybe the best coach in the country, a mulligan, basically. I mean, Georgia won that game, but Kirby's not happy with the way his defense played in that one. His defense has gotten better as the season has gone along. So, yeah, I mean, I think Ole Miss has to find a pulse on defense, like a lot of these games we're talking about. Sure would help if you can get some pressure on the quarterback, on Gunnar Stockton. But yeah, I mean it's tough. That Ole Miss needs its offense to be about as explosive as it's been all season. And I just think that's hard to do in what I say is kind of a mulligan game for Kirby Smart.
Okay, well, first off, I mean, how entertaining has it been to see Lane Kiffin. He's just desperate for attention right now. He's
Mm-hmm.
just posting on X over and over during the game, after the game. Look at LSU. Look who we are. This is the greatest football program ever. He's desperate for attention. That I love. Now, his former team, they got problems. They got a lot of problems. Georgia's playing as well as anyone right now. The Georgia defense, which struggled earlier in the year, there's no doubt about it. They were not the boogeyman earlier in the year. Well, they are full on boogeyman right now. That's going to be a big, big problem for Ole Miss. And I'm still not a believer in the Ole Miss defense. I just don't think they're physical enough to get in there and stop this Georgia offense that really doesn't do anything exceptional. They just do a lot of really good things, both with Gunnar Stockton and the pass game. I think this is going to be a completely different game from the first time. It'll be a rather easy Georgia win, actually.
All right, so as we wrap up this video, what 4 teams do you have advances to the next round?
I sort of like the chalk. I know that's boring, but I do think, Matt said it earlier. There's not the huge separation there used to be in college football where you'd have like, maybe 2 teams sort of pull away from everybody else. Or in some years, frankly, it was like 1 team pulling away from everybody else. I don't see that, but I have thought throughout most of the season that the teams we have in the top 4 seeds here are the 4 best teams, or at least they were always in the conversation. Georgia maybe took the longest, I think, to get to this point, but for the last several weeks now, it was clear Georgia belonged in that conversation. I think Indiana, Ohio State, and Texas Tech have belonged in that top 4 perch for a while now. And so, again, I know it's boring. Everybody is looking for the upset pick, but I don't see one. I think it's going to be chalk. I think it's Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech.
So I like Indiana to eventually figure it out with Alabama. I like Georgia, like I said earlier. Like that game's going to be the largest margin of all 4 of them. I here's the one that I think really is a concern. I think Texas Tech's going to win the Orange Bowl too. By the way, I think Miami's going to beat Ohio State. I really
Mm.
do. I think that Miami defense, the way they can rush the quarterback, that can change a game. That can change a game. And that offensive line is built to deal with that Ohio State defense. There's 5 guys in that offensive line that are going to play in the NFL. So if you're going to do it, and if this is really the Miami is back that Mario has been building for the last 3 or 4 years, now is the time, man. Now is the time to step up against the defending national champion and say, all right, here's our line in the sand. We're going to affect the quarterback. We're going to protect the quarterback, and we're going to get the biggest upset of the playoff.
And to Matt's point, like there was a time where we thought Miami was one of the 4 best teams in the country. In September, if we were drafting teams for the national championship, like Miami would have been like number 2, number 3, number 4 off the board. I think so. Yeah, I think that's a fair one there to see some upset potential, particularly the way that defense got after it against Texas A&M.